I'll introduce Mr. One. I don't know what the abbreviation is. Maybe Ketz does, but CJ Stroud out of Ohio State, 6'3", 215, another underclassman. So he's not going to pass the golden rules check, is he, Ketz?
No, sir. Only a junior, 2 seasons as a starter, only 26 games played, only 22 wins. And to be honest, that 22 wins figure, I'm tempted to take one of those off him because it was basically just taking the knee when they were 45-10, but that was a game won by Justin Fields at the time. 69.3% completion percentage and 85 touchdowns compared to 12 interceptions.
Yeah. 66.3 completion percentage in 2022 as well, which is a nice high figure. Big arm, quick, strong release with zip, decent anticipation. He's like an accurate, confident pocket passer and a quick processor. And he excels in structure, doesn't really make plays outside of structure. So he's like the opposite of Bryce Young. And I think that's why I'm drawn to him. It's just my style of QB. I sort of drawn to this kind of guy. Good size, big specimen, good arm strength, pocket presence, uses protection well, leads receivers, throws dimes over the middle between hashes, got great deep ball accuracy, timing. I mean, he's got good mobility in the pocket, but not sort of his play style isn't that kind of escapability and, rushing. He's just not that dude. And you think about, he had a good year in 22 and he'd lost, what an offense in 21, Olave and Garrett Wilson on the boundary. But he actually had a better season in 22. All right, we've got Marvin Harrison Jr., right, who's looking like another good receiver. But that tells me that he's not reliant on the weapons around him. He can work with what he's got there. And he's progressing, plays with composure, and he's developing. And so, I don't know if you watched the Notre Dame tape. That was a pretty rough first half. And that was actually the first game I watched. And I was thinking, littered with accuracy issues. All the balls seem to be high, low, behind. I don't know if he was injured or probably more likely that they were doing some stuff on defense that he wasn't quite sure. He was a bit flustered by the disguise, but that's all part of the process. I think he's shown. You could say, does he beat up weaker teams? Maybe. But I think if he gets on the tape study, he can put that to bed. I think he's got the sort of key fundamentals there to be that kind of rhythm passer. I'd like to see a bit more playmaking when things don't go his way, a bit more stuff when the play breaks down, when things go against him. And I think that maybe is why he's second and not first in this list, like you say, because the NFL wants the playmaker. But I like the guy definitely in. And as I said, I'd be taking him over Bryce Young if it was me making a selection.
Yeah, I think 5 or 6 years ago, I think CJ Stroud probably would have been top of this list, right? And those size concerns on Bryce Young would have been more of a knock. But I think he definitely he's. I don't think that what I don't want this to sound like is by saying that he's the opposite. He is like a statuesque pocket passer kind of guy, because I don't think that's fair on him. He's definitely more in that realm than Bryce Young. He's not got that kind of creative, improvisational, fun energy. Maybe fun wasn't a leading word there, Gav, I don't know. But the 3 words I wrote down about CJ Stroud were efficient, technical, accurate. It's funny that he's not even had as much game experience as Bryce Young, because I think he certainly looks like he has. He looks very polished in his passing motion. He easily stretches the field. He can throw outside the numbers with this really kind of efficient, zippy, powerful throwing arm. I don't think it's an elite arm in the way that Bryce Young's is. He can't just kind of, with a flick of a wrist, bomb it 75 yards down the field or whatever is going on with the other 2 guys at the top of this class. But I think it's above. I think is it fair to say it's an above average NFL arm? I think he can easily stretch the field and hit the outside of the numbers in some nice tight window passes. And what I like about Stroud is that he's shown steady growth throughout the progression of his career. Supposedly, he kind of struggled when he first came in at high school, improved, got better, got picked up, and then improved in college as well. In his first 3 starts, apparently he was a bit of a mess, and then dominated for the rest of his first year in 2021. So it seems like he's constantly improving, only getting better, hasn't reached his peak. I think that's a good sign for a guy like this. But just in terms of his play, I think you've hit the nail on the head, Gav. I mean, he reads the field quickly and efficiently, delivers the ball very timely manner. Obviously got that size ability, that size factor that Young doesn't have. Sorry. But like you say, I just wish that there was a little bit more to the out of structure plays. All feels a bit designed, and when things break down in the NFL, we know that you need a little bit of something to get out of pressure and evade. And I didn't see a ton of that. I know there's some talk about this final game that he played, as apparently I don't think I saw the tape for that, sadly, but a lot of people are saying that this game he played in the national was it the semi-final?
Peach Bowl, the Georgia game. Yeah.
A lot of people are saying that that's dissuaded them of concerns about him against pressure, that he looked really good in that game, and that was kind of completely different to everything he put on tape before that. So, I mean, I don't know about that. That kind of depends how you want to read the situation. But from what I saw, this wasn't an elite player against pressure. Not that he panicked, definitely wasn't. I thought he actually stepped up into pressure really well, but he wasn't a guy that was going to make dudes miss. He wasn't a guy that was going to... He definitely has the athleticism to pick up some yards on the ground, can run a bootleg, but he's not, he's not kind of running around back there extending plays for a super long time, in my opinion. So...
No, he's definitely more on the sort of Breeze Brady scale of QBs, where Bryce Young's more Mahomes / Jalen Hurts. That's the flavour, isn't it? Yeah,
absolutely agree. It is, and that's what it is. It's flavour, I think, rather than necessarily quality. I just think that the flavour that Bryce Young is a little bit more rare, a little bit more of like purified DNA that I'm looking for. But I think CJ Stroud could certainly be a really high-level, efficient quarterback. The way I put it is this. I worry about the landing spot somewhat more than I worry about the player. I think the player is really great. I'm going to be in on him. But he strikes me as a guy that could thrive if he's given like a really solid system, right? He's accurate, he's smart, he's technically gifted. But what worries me is, again, he gets drafted at the top of the draft. You kind of put him behind a weird O-line. You expect him to run around, make plays out of nothing. That's just not going to happen, right? You see like a guy like Justin Fields in Chicago, since he's been drafted, he is that offense, right? He's carrying that team. And I don't know if a CJ Stroud can do that. Not because it's not really a knock on him. It's just not in his DNA. It's not the kind of player he is. I want him to be a piece of an offense that's well built rather than the guy that's carrying it. So,
yeah, if you dropped him into Dallas or even the Saints, that would be, those kind of offenses would work really well.
Yeah, that was my big concern about him. Just like what you're saying, Sai, is where's he going to end up? And because I like to say he's mobile, but he's not going to extend plays and do something crazy. I feel a bit bad because I watched him straight after watching Bryce Young, and I thought initially I was like, this guy isn't sexy at all. There's no where's the pop? He's not singing out off the screen to me, but when you sort of look at it in the cold light of day, he's going to be effective in the right system. But if you can't protect him you've got to design a whole system around him and for him, because that's what he's had at Ohio. He's had a very sort of QB friendly system around him and a very good offense around him. So if you haven't got that, you're going to see him looking like, who's this guy? Why have you drafted this guy? Because he's not going to create anything for you. He's going to do what you give him to do. He's going to read off the playbook. He's going to do exactly that. He's not going to create much.
Yeah, and he's going to do it efficiently. And you know what? That's great.
Yeah,
there's so few people that can do that. So, I'm certainly not out on him. It's just a different kind of vibe.
His sizzle reel is like him throwing really accurate, well-placed slants over.
Yes,
and over
exactly. Again. Yeah. Like a 10-yard dig, just perfectly placed into the guy's hands. Yeah.
I've evaluated him slightly differently.
Oh, what is he? The next Jalen Hurts?
No.
Sorry, Jess.
I don't think he is that accurate. The first thing he did, which annoyed me, is make passes behind the line of scrimmage that could get his team into trouble. I see too much of that week in, week out watching the Steelers, maybe, before Kenny, to be fair. But he did it twice versus Penn State. And often very quickly as well. I sent Gav a message about this during the week and said, is he looking beyond his first read? Because I'm not convinced that he is. I think he looks up, knows where his first read is, and just tries to get rid of the ball very quickly, which potentially is why those slant passes work so well. But I just feel, and I think you've hit the nail on the head, Si, if he's not in the right system, I feel like it could all fall apart quite quickly. Now, I don't think he's potentially the biggest bust in this draft. I think there's another guy that's potentially going to have that title from me in due course this evening. But for CJ Stroud, I think there's some loose, floaty passes, which I think will be intercepted at the next level. There's some high, inaccurate passes. Now, don't get me wrong, there's some inch-perfect sideline throws, deep completions. You can see why he's got the kind of level of pop that he has to a certain extent. And the point you made, Si, about that Georgia game and that sort of front seven, that almost fearsome front seven that's led to so many high-quality draft picks on Georgia's defense in the last couple of years or so. 2nd and 7, 8 minutes 26 left in the first quarter. He drops back, reading downfield, directing traffic, threw a 38 yards sort of dart straight into the end zone. Ball placement was excellent, leaving the safety no chance in cover 2. When he's got that brilliant O-line in front of him, the pocket passing, yes, I understand it. I get why he's going to be drafted as high as he is. When he hasn't got that, and when he's escaping, he puts himself in danger some of the time. He just sometimes the decision making, I'm not 100% convinced by it. So yeah, I get the passing and the accuracy when he's in a perfect situation, but in the NFL, I don't think he's going to be in the perfect situation. Equally, there were some other games, and I watched the Michigan and I think it was the Penn State game, where I just saw things that just scared me a little bit. So if we're saying, QB2, top 5, at that value, I'm afraid I'm out.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if you didn't watch the Notre Dame game as well, that was like a horror show the first half. So there are concerns there, but I just think that what you said about the progressions and reading the field, he's very quick at processing, but he's not that kind of guy that's going to sit there, in his wide base, flicking around with his head going left to right. He is trying to get the ball out fast, and I think it's, I think part of his progression will be to extend his time in the pocket when he's got time and make him sort of more aware of what he can do and what he can see. I think it's a little bit of a projection, but it's just what I find enticing is that anticipation, the rhythm kind of passing that he can do.
I have to say, Gav, I'm with you, and I think that of all the QBs I watched this week, I think that he is probably the one that, especially on those kind of short and intermediate routes, when the way that he's kind of leading receivers, his ball placement, the way that he encourages yak is probably the best. Yeah. And I think maybe that's some of the knowledge of the offense, right? And just being very comfortable with it. I mean, he's throwing balls before guys have made their breaks where I wouldn't have even known how was he even going to get there, and it's landed in his hands. So
yeah, it's not even just finding a guy in tight windows. It's putting the ball in a place that's enabling him to carry on with his momentum. It's pinpoint ball placement when he gets it right, Kets. When he gets it wrong, it's ugly.
Yeah, he's the kind of QB that you'd love Deontay to have, because Deontay Johnson would absolutely thrive with this guy in the centre.
Yeah.
On the one condition that you've got a play caller that will actually dial up a slant.
Yeah.
So I'm in. Kets is out. Dave, size in.
I don't know. Initially, I was saying kind of out because I was seeing him being sort of just where he's going to end up. I don't know.
You've also got to imagine that teams could move up this year. That's the other thing. It's all a bit strange.
That's true.
But he is consensus QB2, and he's consensus number 5 on the big board.
I can see him being in the wrong place and just busting.
I could see that.
So.
Just to put it out there, he shares an agent with a guy that now plays football in Cleveland, so probably won't go to Houston on that basis.
I'm so glad you said that, because I didn't know that, Kets, and that plays into exactly what I was about to say. Vibe check. Now, liked his vibe. Thought he came across as like kind of, funny, sort of personable, not obnoxious, like I thought he might do originally when I first heard him speak. But at one point I was watching an interview with him, and the guy, I think it was someone on the Draft Network, asked him, who do you like kind of style your game after in the NFL? And his answer was Deshaun Watson. Now, let's be fair to the kid. He's talking about the play on the field. I understand that. But I checked the date, and it was pretty damn recent. And I was like, now, if you're a draftable QB and someone asks you that question, is your answer going to be Deshaun Watson, regardless of whether it's true, whether he's the guy that most closely fits your play style? Are you going to answer with Deshaun Watson and not, you know what I mean? I just wouldn't do it. Thought it was interesting.
Love the art, hate the artist, or is it the other way around?
Yeah, well, I know, I get that. I totally do. But it just felt like a weird one. That's exactly it. They felt a bit tone deaf, felt a bit weird, like nobody referenced it. Yeah, strange. Didn't always think of that.
Interesting from a vibe scouting perspective as well. She's from California, youngest of 4 brothers. You'd be disappointed if I didn't throw that in there somewhere. His father taught him basketball and football, but his father was incarcerated when Stroud was in middle school. An interview he had spoke of youth upbringing, and the quote was kind of angry and confused as a kid about the adversity hitting him whilst growing up in Southern California. His high school freshman maths teacher wrote the odds of Stroud making the NFL on a sort of whiteboard, 0.078%. But in fairness to him, because of his kind of mum bringing him up, he has noted that he wants to start a charity for single mothers because of her influence on the family. He took his high school team, which is Rancho Cucamonga.
Nice.
I wanted to pronounce that because it was nice. From 0-4 to 6-4, improbable playoff berth, and threw for like 3,800 yards with 47 touchdowns. So interesting and sort of varied upbringing, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah.
Has he ever had an inner ear infection or IBS, something like that? Or?
Pass. Didn't get his medical records.
I like that, Kets. I like that flavour because, you know, we know all too well from the Zach Wilsons of the world that stuff matters.
Unfortunately, my connection dropped out during Dave's in-out rhetoric, so I didn't hear.
Actually, did we ever get an answer on it, Dave? I'm not even sure we did.
So I'm in based on the fact that he's going to be. I think he'll be drafted at the top, but a potential bust.
You're in on a bust.
Warming up the fence there, Dave.
I'm in on him. Yeah. I'm not in on the team who drafts him.
I think from what Dave is saying, I think he's in.
Yes,
I understand what you're saying, though, Dave, because I agree with you.
I love that. I'm in, but not on the team who drafts him.
Yeah.
I don't even know it is yet.
I like he's in, but I'm in, but he might be a bust.
Oh.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're 2 players into draft season, and already it's chaos. Welcome to the UK Steelers podcast.